You're watching the Wine and Cheese Music Session, only on RadioFreeNY.com.
Hi, I'm Evin, a Toronto-based singer-songwriter and keyboard player. You just landed on the RFNY Toronto Penthouse Suite, where we are now going to sip some wine, cut some cheese, shoot the breeze, and play some music. Yeah.
We are with Mike Evin here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And Mike, you were actually born in Montreal?
Mm-hmm.
So, who was your favorite Montreal Canadian hockey player?
You know what, I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't not a fan, but I wasn't a big hockey fan growing up. So I kind of lived vicariously through my friends who were big hockey fans. I remember like in grade 6, a couple of my friends were really big fans of, I forget his name. But yeah, that shows how passionate I am about hockey.
LaFleur.
He's a little before my time.
All right, okay. But were you or any of your friends with, knew personally any NHL players?
No.
And so what made you come down to Toronto, and really what's the difference between the two cities as far as the music scene goes?
There's a big, well, I originally came to Toronto. This is my second time living, my second stint living in Toronto. I came in originally partly for love. I was in a relationship with a girl from Toronto, and so I moved here to be with her, and then we moved away, and then I lived in Montreal after that, and then I came back a couple years ago for music, the music scene. For me, the music scene is a lot more diverse and just bigger in Toronto, and there's a lot more music happening every day, like in bars, and you can sit in with people and jam with people, and there's all kinds of gigs going on. So for me, the scene, the music community fit me better here in Toronto.
No, I know it might be dated at this point, but can you recall and can you actually play a little bit of like one of the first songs that you got great reaction to when you first came into the Toronto club scene?
Well, I can play something that I remember getting good reaction to just in general back then. Let me think.
And about what year was this that this song was first getting some club play?
This is like around I only played Toronto for the first time in 2004 probably, but this song, Stripper My Car, I wrote this around 2002. Actually, I wrote this in New Jersey. I did spend about a year on and off living around New York I was living with my cousins in New Jersey, and I would go into New York and play at the coffee houses a lot. This is around 2002.
And I love that title. I remember you gave it to me back a few years ago. What was behind that title?
Stripper My Car was originally, I wrote it was a lot slower, and it had a totally different set of lyrics. And I wrote this living in New Jersey, and I wrote this, and I don't remember the lyrics to the verses, but instead of Stripping My Car, it was called Children and the Sun. And it went like, children and the sun, children and the sun. It was very mellow and very earnest too. And I played it for this girl I was dating at the time, and she was like, this is too cheesy, blah, blah, blah. You gotta change it. So I went back and I don't know, I just, somehow the story of this guy, of this midlife guy going through a crisis came to me, and I wrote the lyrics, Stripping My Car, and it became that. And didn't look back after that.
Was it like a guy that was married, that was cheating with his wife, and was playing around with a folk?
Presumably, yeah. It's a fictional story. I was influenced a lot by writers like Randy Newman at the time, who would write from the point of view of another character, but write in the first person in the character. Right. So I was doing that a lot at the time in my writing. And
well, I could believe it, because early album CD that you sent me,
Has a lot
I
of that.
actually made notes that one of the other songs had a Randy Newman kind of feel to it.
Yeah, Randy Newman was a big influence on me at the time for sure, and still is. Yeah.
All right, and so can you give us a little taste
I'm gonna
of
play
how
it?
that song evolved to?
Well, it had the same exact melody and chords, but I just changed the lyrics and made it a lot quicker and poppier. So it became. Can we just play it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know I love you, darling, and I'm crazy about the kids. But all my friends got Harleys, and I never did. So I went to town, and I bought myself a bar, and I'll have another round for the stripper in my car. The stripper in my car tonight, tonight, tonight. We had some Vietnamese food. I saved you a Tonkin soup. Now we're going to do what feels good. See, I keep you in the loop. And if you still can bend like you did in Juilliard, then I want you to be friends with the stripper in my car. The stripper in my car tonight, tonight, tonight. You know I love you, babe, and we made it fine this far. But I already have paid for the stripper in my car. Stripper in my car. The stripper in my car. Stripper in my car tonight. 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 So that's that.
Good. I liked it back then, and it's even higher now to be live on Radio Free NY.
I have a bit more trouble like relating to it now, or just singing it with conviction, because it's another character. Like I just feel like I've grown a lot since I've written it, you know. But that's everyone goes through that.
That's
whatever.
you,
Whatever.
and you can't knock, the creator of the child.
Yeah.
And having those stories, but at the same time, as you think of your worldwide audience and the subject matter, it's so timely for how the media just exposes sex to the max, and this song is an extension of what's going on in today's world. So maybe it's an older song to you, but it's so relevant to today.
Yeah.
And to college students and the old men that could afford hookers in their cars. Back in the previous century, I was involved in a drive time commercial radio show called Radio Free NY, same name, of course.
Yeah.
And we were the first ones to give New York City airplay to your friends Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
And we saw on that CD that Stripper in My Car was featured on, that actually a whole bunch of Bare Naked Ladies were involved in that recording with you. Can you tell us how you met them?
Sure.
Who was on the record, what they did on the album? And
Sure. Well, the album's called I'll Bring the Stereo.
Okay.
And that was my second album. My first album, which I released in 2001, it got into the... Andy Cregan, who used to be in Bare Naked Ladies, he was the original keyboard player, and he left after the second album, and he went back to school. He went to McGill University for music composition, and he was in a few classes with a good friend of mine, and my friend gave Andy a copy of my first album, and Andy really liked it and emailed me, introduced himself to me, and Andy is brothers with Jim, who's still in Bare Naked Ladies. They're brothers. So Andy, we had an email correspondence for a while, and then eventually we became friends, and I got to open up for the Brothers Cregan. Jim and Andy have a side project called the Brothers Cregan, and that's where I met Jim, and we became friends, and then it just slowly progressed, and they did some demos with me. Andy produced them, and then came time to make some more recordings, and Jim said, you know what, I don't want to just be involved in demos, and I don't want to just be a bass player for you. I want to be involved in producing, and I want to make a full album. So that's how that album got started, and we did that album in the summer of 2004 at Jim's old house in Toronto, and we kind of rigged the whole house, made it a makeshift recording studio, which was a lot of fun. And and then Jim brought like Tyler Stewart, the drummer in Bare Naked Ladies, to play, and he played on that song, "A Stripper in My Car," and then Kevin Hearn, the keyboard player, he played some synthesizer on that song as well. And so those are the only two other guys, and Andy played, of course, on the record, Andy Cregan. I remember the first day I met Tyler Stewart, the drummer.
Wacky guy.
Wacky guy.
Personality.
Oh yeah, very big personality, and I was a little intimidated, to be honest, because I can be shy, and I can and if there are other bigger personalities in the room, I can kind of retreat into the shy mode. And he and Jim obviously have this great chemistry, and they were just riffing off each other. And here I am, like, we're recording. I met the guy for the first time, and we're recording songs that are going to be on my album. And so I have to like really be in a good mood and just like have a chemistry with him. But I think maybe that nervousness kind of played into kind of. Throughout that making of that album, there was a lot of nervous energy on my part, because I was playing with all these amazing musicians, like, who were a lot better than me and a lot more experienced than me, and I feel like a lot of that nervous energy kind of went into my playing in a good way. I was on my toes a lot, so I have good memories of that.
Well, they're good guys, and I don't know if it was the work that we did with them, but it was them that actually turned me on to you after we videotaped them back a few years ago. They said, hey, if you want to hear some great local Toronto talent, you got to call in our guy, Mike Evin.
That's so sweet. They're the sweetest guys, and they're my biggest supporters and my biggest mentors, and I learn all the time from them. I'm just really lucky to call them friends, and supporters.
But as a sidebar, did you ever ask your friend Andy, how come, though on one end, I respect him for the fact that he wanted to go back to school and study music composition, did you ask him, well, didn't you realize that Bare Naked Ladies is on the brink of major success, and don't you want to hang out in the band and ride that big commercial?
They were still a few years away from that when he left.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't like that obvious, and Andy's just his own guy. He's his own man. I'm sure he has regrets on some days, but I think he made the right decision for himself. I mean, it was he marches to the beat of his own drummer.
Good for him.
To use a cliche, and in a good way.
And the last thing about Bare Naked Ladies is, have there been any shows that really stand out as being extra special BNL shows?
That I've seen?
That you've seen,
Yeah, well, I did, I was on their Ships and Dip cruise a couple of years. They have these cruises where they bring a bunch of different musical artists onto this cruise ship, and their fans come on. So I got to see a bunch of their shows, and there's not one that's sticking out in my mind right now, but they're all great. They're just such great performers. They're such amazing performers,
That's for sure.
They invited me to sing in 2011. I was on the Ships and Dip cruise. They invited me to sing one of their songs with them at a concert. That song Enid. I don't know if you know that song.
Well, of course, it was from the first album recording that we put all over New York City radio.
So they asked me to sing lead vocal on it in the theater for 700 people or something like that, and there's a lot of words in that song, and the whole day I was trying really hard to memorize the words, and came time to go do the performance. And when the second verse came, I was on stage and I totally froze, and I forgot the words. And for like 3 minutes, they were playing the song, and people were trying to shout out lyrics to me, and I was just going through this blank. And
knowing Band of Ladies, they were probably ad-libbing and kidding around during that whole part.
Yeah.
That's funny. And so besides B&L, what other music performers have you shared a stage with that you most admire musically?
Well, one of my idols, Ron Sexsmith, who's a Canadian, really well-known Canadian songwriter. I've been lucky to collaborate with him. He helped me finish one of my songs a few years ago that was on my last album, and I've shared the stage with him a few times. Like we've been at the Ottawa Folk Festival together, so we were on a workshop stage together. And he's come. I remember I did a show a few years ago in Toronto, and he came to the show, and we did an Elton John song called "Holiday Inn," very little known Elton John song.
Can you do a little bit of that? Wow.
I think it's like, I don't know if it's the original key. Boston at last, and the plane's touching down. The hostess is handing the hot towels around. From the terminal gate to a black limousine, it's a 10-minute ride to the Holiday Inn. He does it in a higher key, I remember. And I remember Ron wanted to do it in the original key, even though it was a little too high for him. Well, yeah, it's on the same album as Tiny Dancer.
Wow, kind of an obscure Elton song.
It's a great song.
Wow, and the song that I guess you co-wrote with Ron Sexsmith.
Not that song.
No, not that song. That's an Elton song, I know, but you said on your prior record.
Yeah.
You co-wrote.
He actually didn't want to take any credit for it because I had it mostly written already when I came in, but so he didn't want to take any credit for it. But he gave me this one line. I got this glimpse of how brilliant he is in his writing. It was just amazing to be there to see that. Like there's just one line in the song, and he was like, "What about stepping on?" I had one part of the song where it's like.
Did you do really the song?
Sure, yeah. It's a little long. I mean, I don't know if I can do it. Yeah.
It features the line that Ron gave you.
Sure. So the first verse is like I haven't done this in a while. This is the first verse. So a neighborhood moves around me from the doctor's. The words. So the part where he helped me out was like the first verse. I had these words, and I'm tripping on roots. I'm tripping on roots. Right. So that was in the first verse. And the second verse, he was like, "Well, what about instead of saying tripping on roots, why don't you say stepping on cracks?"
Right.
And it's like, that superstition about, when you step on cracks in the sidewalk. So it fit just perfectly. Like, and I'm stepping on cracks. I'm stepping on cracks. So I put that in there, and he didn't want to take any credit for it. And I remember I was having trouble with the second verse, and he was looking through my notebook and had like old versions of the song with different lyrics, and he was like, "What about what you wrote down here for this in this page for the second verse?" And I was like, "Oh, that's old." And he said, "Well, I kind of like it." And I was looking at it again. I was like, "Yeah, it's not bad. Maybe I will take that." And so we brought it back and we reworked it a little bit, but I probably wouldn't have gone back there and used that. Sometimes when you're working on songs, or on anything creative, you keep going, and then sometimes you don't realize that what you had, maybe the second draft was actually really good.
Right.
But so he helped me see that. It was just a thrill to spend an afternoon with him in his apartment writing.
Well, he's kind of known in the U.S. as well.
And what's even a bigger thrill for me is that so as a teenager, I was a big Ron Sexsmith fan, and he would come and play concerts in Montreal. I'd go see them, and his drummer Don Kerr, my eyes were glued to him on stage. I fell in love with his drumming, with his vibe. It was just, like, I just loved watching him, and I kind of had this like musician crush on him for a long time. And when I first moved to Toronto, we were at this concert, this event together, and he ended up producing this recording of mine, this album of mine. We worked together, and we became good friends too, me and Don Kerr.
And he played drums on it?
And he played drums on it,
Wow.
and played cello, and we were still really good friends, so it's just little moments like that, little things like that, where when you're able to become friends with people who you really admired.
Sure.
Coming up, it's beautiful.
What is like one of your favorite songs that you wished you wrote, but someone else did? And if you could maybe give us a little taste.
Maybe the first thing that came to my mind was Saturday in the Park by Chicago.
Right.
So like... Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July. Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July. People laughing, people smiling, a man selling ice cream, singing Italian songs. You know the words here? Let's do some of the fake Italian words.
Bobby Lamb on keyboards did this part.
But what are the words they sing? Can you dig it? Yes, I can. I've been waiting such a long time for Saturday. Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July. Saturday in the park, you think it was the 4th of July. People talking, really smiling, and playing guitar, playing for a song. Can you help him change the world? Can you dig it? Yes, I can. I've been waiting such a long time for the day. Great bridge here. Slow motion riders ride the colors of the day. A bronze man still can tell stories his own way. Listen, children, all is not lost, all is not lost. Whoa, whoa. Peter Cetera has a really high voice.
Oh, that's right. Pete Cetera and Bobby Lamb on keyboards. It was a great combination. It was great that you commented on the bridge, because as a young kid growing up hearing that, I remember that bridge.
Well, I honestly feel like they don't write songs pop songs like they did back then. I mean, you can't. The fact that song could be a hit, I don't know if it could be a hit, because I guess just today, because just the chord changes are too,
with closed-minded radio around the world, it unfortunately couldn't be a hit today.
Yeah.
So great music like that, we never see the light of day on radio. It's a shame.
It's very jazz influence.
Oh, yeah. Speaking about radio, what was one of the most popular commercial radio stations that ever played your music? And what song was it? And can you show it off to us?
Right now, it's only been CBC that's been playing my music up until now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, that'll change soon. But it's still great. CBC in Canada. It's like NPR in the States.
A lot of people listen.
A lot of people listen. They play a lot of my stuff, like they played a song I called Great Pop Song, which goes a little bit like this. I'll play a little bit of it. I heard a great pop song today. It made me want to sit down There was something in the singing. Oh, that great pop song today. It had a feeling. I heard a great pop song today. It made me want to sit down and play. Anyways, that's a little bit of that song.
And so that got a bit of play then on.
Yeah, there's this national CBC show called. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm having a moment here. Anyways, they played. They're fans of my music, so they played that, and they played a few others. And it's really nice because their shows are broadcast across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The song that I'd love you to play is "Slums with Cameras." You could just give us.
I'll play the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Definitely.
great song.
Yeah. And funny thing about that intro, there's like this intro here, and that was totally spontaneous in the studio. Tyler Stewart was playing drums from Renegade Ladies, and we were just getting into the vibe of the song and getting loose, and we were jamming for a while on that, and we're like, why don't we start the song like that?
Right.
You know? So it's just cool how that kind of happened.
Was I like the only one that ever brought up it? You know, thinking that it had a Steely Dan feel to it?
I think so. I never was a huge listener of Steely Dan growing up, but I must have soaked some of it up.
Right. Yeah, subconsciously, that's how.
Yeah, totally. They're great. They're awesome. Okay, here it goes. Where the poets with turtlenecks used to walk the street. Let me suggest a little neighborhood by the bay where they keep the beat. Jim, I did it. Jim, I did it. I did it again. I sent them to the slums with cameras. Slums with cameras. You want to find where they say all the locals go, 'cause it's cool to dine. I know a place. Let me give you directions, sir, 'cause there are no signs. Jim, I did it. Jim, I did it. I did it. Slums with cameras. Slums with cameras, yeah. Oh, what I'd give to see their faces when they get shown to the alley. They have no business driving station wagons through this town. This is not Disneyland, so Jim, I did it. Jim, I did it. I did it again. I sent them to the slums with cameras. Slums with cameras, yeah. Jim, I did it. Jim, I did it. I did it again. I sent them to the slums with cameras. Slums with cameras. I sent them to the slums with cameras. Slums with cameras, yeah.
RadioFreeNY.com. Free music, sex, comedy, and other stuff.